What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to go over 5 things you should not be doing in your dual clutch transmission vehicle. Now a dual clutch transmission is pretty much a type of automatic transmission. However, rather than using a torque converter which utilizes pressure to build to connect the engine to the transmission, a dual clutch has 2 different sets of clutches just like in a traditional stick shift manual transmission. There's a clutch pack for the even gears and a clutch pack for the odd gears. These transmissions are commonly lighter weight, more durable, more precise, and a heck of a lot more fun and more efficient than a traditional automatic and even a manual transmission. So first and foremost is launch control. Launching your dual clutch. How do you do it? Well, if your car has a launch control system programmed into it, use it correctly. If it doesn't, you don't want a neutral drop. Neutral dropping a launch control is a horrible idea. That's basically from a standstill, putting it into neutral, building the revs, and then just popping it right into drive and hoping for the best. You're probably going to blow something up, destroy some clutch plates, even maybe destroy your engine, turbo, or transmission. Don't even think about doing a neutral drop launch control. This car, it has a launch control system built in. All I have to do is turn traction control off and then put the car into the dynamic mode. And then from there, all we do is come to a standstill and the car's basically going to neutral drop itself. Let the car do its thing. Hold the brake, hold the gas, let off the brake, and it'll launch. Now, technically the car kind of does its own neutral drop, but that's all with the programming. You want to let the car do the work. Along with that, if you don't have a launch control, the best way to launch a car like this is from a standstill, hold the brake a little bit, maybe build the revs to almost 2,000, and then let your foot off the brake and continue mashing the gas. That's the safest way to do a launch control in a dual clutch transmission without blowing it up. Of course, if you do it back to back to back to back, you might cause some issues or run into some problems. But if you're going to launch the car, don't do a neutral drop, do some sort of brake hold like that, or just have a car that has launch control and you'll be good to go. So then next up on the list has to do with how you're going to shift. Like I said, you can drive these in automatic, let the car do the thinking. However, you can put these into a manual mode and shift yourself. When you shift your car, you want to take in consideration the shift logic that's programmed into the car. This car is basically geared up to where every time you're going to make a gear change, it's already anticipating your next gear change. That's the really cool thing about a dual clutch. Half the clutches, of course, correspond to the even gears, the others are the odd gears. So when I'm in 3rd gear right now, the 2nd and 4th gear are ready to go with that clutch depending on my speed and depending on what I'm doing. When I'm accelerating in 3rd gear, the car right now is already thinking about 4th. As soon as I do the upshift, 4th gear was instantly ready to go. All it had to do was engage the clutch. There was no actual gear change. It was just so ready to go, and that's why dual clutches are so cool. And at the same regard, if I'm in a higher gear, so let's get into 4th gear, if I'm slowing down, 3rd gear is ready to go. The shift logic knows that 3rd gear is probably the next gear. So going down, right into 3rd gear by the instant I hit that paddle shifter. Now, the thing is, you don't want to mess that up. So if I'm accelerating, it'll upshift pretty quickly. However, if I'm on the gas accelerating and I downshift, it'll be a slower gear change. So I'm in 5th gear. It was maybe like a whole second to downshift into 4th. Accelerating now from 4th to 3rd. It just wasn't as quick. Same goes for if you're slowing down and upshifting. Like, I don't even know if it changed gears. It takes forever to do that. So in these cars, you want to really optimize when you're taking manual control and when you're choosing to make a gear change. So the shift logic is pretty important in a dual clutch transmission. Just know that if you want the gear change to happen as quick as possible, you want to anticipate the next gear just like the cars. So make sure you're doing that. When you're slowing down, that's the best time to downshift. When you're speeding up, that's the best time to upshift. Not to say you can't do it mixed ways. It doesn't really make a difference. It's not going to harm the car. Just know if you want the quickest transmission gear changes, that's the quickest it's going to be able to shift. So then next up on the list has to do with when you get into traffic, creeping in traffic. So right now I'll come to a stop as if there's cars all in front of me. Every time I let my foot off the brake, the clutch is engaged and obviously the car starts to roll. If you're in bumper to bumper traffic, constantly creeping the car and doing this, stop and go. Not saying it's going to necessarily destroy your engine or transmission or anything like that, but constantly creeping like this in traffic is basically taking the clutches, constantly opening and closing them, disengaging, re-engaging. Again, it's not going to kill the car, but just know if you do have heavy traffic, try not to creep as much. Try to let the car ahead of you get some distance, not obviously a crazy amount, but let them go a little bit, then pull up to them, stop for a decent amount of time, and then keep going. Dual clutches have got a lot better over time, and they're really much more comfortable and smoother to be able to do traffic like that. Just know that creeping in traffic excessively could cause some more wear on your transmission than you would like, and you just want to be able to have a better gap to where you're not dealing with the stop and go just as much. Next up has to do with when you come to a stop at a red light or at a stop sign, do you need to put it into neutral? In a manual transmission, you're pretty much going to put it into neutral at a stop, especially if you're going to be there at a while. On a dual clutch, you really don't need to. Going from drive into neutral, nothing changes. The car doesn't shake. The tach right now is around 950 RPM. Going into drive, it's still the exact same. The car is smart enough to know that when I'm at a standstill, the clutches are not connected. Everything is disengaged until I take my foot off the brake, and now you can see us rolling. So when you come to a standstill, you don't have to put it into neutral. You can leave it into drive and just treat it like a normal automatic transmission. It's not going to make any sort of difference. Certain cars, it might shake a little bit if you're still in drive, depending on how your clutches are set up. That's commonly on older cars with maybe old school dual clutch transmissions, but most modern ones, you really have no issues. Just drive it like a normal car and you'll be good to go. So then last on the list has to do with a hill. So right now I am on a hill, and if I take my foot off the brake, let's see what happens in this car. So nothing happens. This car has brake hill assist. However, you can see me starting to roll back now, and that's me off the brake in drive. So the brake hill assist stuff is going to give you kind of a couple seconds of leeway to where when you let your foot off the brake, it gives you time to hit the gas and accelerate. Now, as you saw, after a second or two, it turns off, and it basically is putting this car into neutral. But right now, it was slipping the clutch a little bit, giving me acceleration. You'll probably notice that once again. So right now we're idling at around 950. Take my foot off the brake. In a second, it's going to go up to 1,000 RPM right there, pull me forward. And luckily, it's still pulling me forward. But right now, the clutch is just barely engaging to let me go up the hill. So when you're on a hill, if you put it into neutral, of course, you'll just roll backwards, which you don't want to do. But if you don't have the hill start assist like this car happens to have, and you just let it sit here kind of riding on the idle of the car right there, that's the slipping point, and then we're falling backwards, you're basically just slipping your clutch, holding your car in place. You don't want to do that. So kind of feel out your car, understand what technology your car may or may not have. In my GTR, it's not smart enough to have hill start assist. It's too old of a car. In that car, it will just sit there and try to bite the clutches, try to give you some forward acceleration, and just slip the clutch the whole time. This car, of course, has the technology where once I take my foot off the brake, I have about 2 seconds to give it some gas and start accelerating. But that's the thing you don't want to do. You don't want to get in your dual clutch transmission car and start rolling down a hill, or just let it slip while you're standing on a hill not moving. Let your brake hold the car, not your transmission. That's just a much better way to go. But there are 5 things you should not be doing in your dual clutch automatic transmission car. These things are really nice. I definitely prefer a dual clutch over an automatic. They are so much fun, much more engaging, and just a better transmission for a lot more fun cars. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for plenty more content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.